Azure provides storage with the help of a service offering called as Azure Storage Accounts. Depending on your purpose and need, you would use blobs, files, tables, or queues. Let's talk about the use cases of each one of them one by one. Azure Blob Storage. Azure Blob Storage is Microsoft's object storage solution for the cloud. Blob storage is optimized for storing massive amounts of unstructured data, such as text or binary data. Blob storage is ideal for serving images or documents directly to a browser. So if you got your website or your web application, you can keep your pictures, videos, images in the blob storage. Blob storage can also be used for storing files for distributed access. You can stream videos and audios directly from the blob storage. Blob storage can also be used for storing data for backup and restore, disaster recovery, and also archiving purposes. Storing data for analysis by an on-premise or Azure hosted service can also be done in blob storage. Objects in blob storage can be accessed from anywhere in the world through an HTTP or HTTPS connection. Users or client applications can access blobs through URLs or through REST API calls, PowerShell, or CLI. The storage client libraries are available in multiple languages including .NET, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, or Ruby. Azure Files. Azure Files enables you to set up highly available network file share that can be accessed by using the SMB protocol. That means that multiple virtual machines can share the same files with both read and write access at the same time. You can also read the files using REST APIs. One thing that distinguishes Azure Files from files on the corporate file share is that you can access these files from anywhere in the world just by using a URL that points to the file and includes a shared access signature for security purposes. You can generate the shared access signature tokens that will allow specific access to a private asset for a specific amount of time. When do we use file shares? File shares can be used in many common scenarios. Some of these are using file shares for migrating your on-premise applications and data to Azure. Many on-premise applications use file shares, and this feature makes it easier to migrate those applications that share data to Azure. That means if you mount the file share to the same drive letter that's on-premise application is using, then the part of your application that accesses the file share would work with minimal changes. Configuration files can be stored on a file share, and that can also be accessed from multiple virtual machines. That means tools and utilities used by multiple developers in a group can be stored on a file share, ensuring that everybody can find them and then they use the same version. We can also use the file share for diagnostic logs, metrics, and crash dumps. And these are just three examples of data that can be written to a file share and processed and analyzed later on. Queue storage. Azure Queue Service is used to store and retrieve messages. These are usually done by applications. So when applications receive or store messages, Azure Queue can be used to store such messages for the applications. Queue messages can be up to 64 KB in size, and a queue can contain millions of messages. Queues are generally used to store lists of messages to be processed asynchronously. For example, say you want your customers to be able to upload pictures and you want to create a thumbnail of each picture. You could have your customer wait for you to create the thumbnails while uploading the pictures. An alternative would be to use the queue. So when the customer finishes his upload, then a message is written to the queue. Then you can either have an Azure function retrieve the message from the queue and create the thumbnails. Each of these parts of processing can be scaled separately, giving you more control when tuning it for your usage. Finally, tables. Azure Tables is now part of Cosmos DB. So in addition to the existing Azure Table Storage Service, there is a new Azure service offering called Azure Cosmos DB that provides throughput optimized tables, global distribution, and automatic secondary indexes. Keep in mind that table storage is a NoSQL database, just like Cosmos DB. But Cosmos DB is much more powerful because it is also called as a planet scale database that is also NoSQL. So you will get throughput and input output at a millisecond level. Your latencies are far reduced when using NoSQL in the form of Cosmos DB. In the next video, let's learn about standard and premium storage accounts in Azure.